Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the latest UK Finance Annual Fraud Report. We're going to unpack all the key numbers and trends to really understand the state of financial crime here in the UK right now.
Okay, let's just jump right in with the big headline number, £1.17 billion. That is the total amount stolen by criminals through fraud in 2024. It's a staggering figure that has just remained stubbornly high, with almost no change from the year before. And how does that huge number break down? Well, it represents 3.31 million individual cases. Now, what's really alarming here is that this is a 12% jump from 2023. In fact, it's the highest number ever recorded. So what does that tell us? It's pretty clear. Criminals are having to cast a much wider net, targeting more and more people just to maintain their profit.
But, that's only half the picture. There's also the story of the fight back. For every single pound that criminals tried to steal, the finance industry successfully stopped 67 pence from ever leaving a victim's account. That is a massive amount of fraud being stopped in its tracks, and it's up 16% on the previous year.
And this quote from Ben Donaldson at UK Finance really just hits the nail on the head. It's a crucial reminder that we're not just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet. Fraud is not a victimless crime. Beyond the money, there's severe psychological damage, a loss of confidence. The human cost is just profound.
So, to really get our heads around this complex issue, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the sheer scale of the problem. Then, we'll get into the two main types of fraud. We'll see how criminals are changing their tactics, how the industry is fighting back, and finally, what you can do. So, let's kick things off with the scale of this battle. Right, let's dive into the scale of the problem, because behind that huge $1.17 billion figure, there's a really worrying trend. Criminals are having to change their entire approach to keep their profits up, and it's affecting more of us than ever before.
Now, to really understand what we're up against, you've got to know that there are two main faces of fraud. And honestly, getting this distinction is absolutely critical.
So on one hand, you've got unauthorized fraud. This is probably what you think of when you hear the word fraud, right? It's the classic stuff. Your card details get stolen, maybe from a data breach, and a criminal uses them to buy something without you even knowing.
And then, on the other hand, there's authorized fraud, which you'll often hear called an authorized push payment or APP scam. And this stuff, it's way more sinister. Why? Because it's all about social engineering. They're not stealing your details. They are psychologically manipulating you into sending them the money yourself.
So that's the absolute key takeaway here. The crucial question is, was your money taken from you, or were you tricked into sending it? Because that difference changes everything about how criminals operate and how the industry has to respond.
All right, let's see how this all plays out in the real world. Because the data shows this constant, relentless game of cat and mouse, where criminals are constantly adapting to whatever new defenses the industry puts up. The financial industry has been throwing everything it's got at stopping those authorized push payment scams. They've really focused on two things: better technology to spot the scams as they happen, and big public awareness campaigns.
And look at this. The results speak for themselves. A massive 20% drop in these kinds of cases in just 1 year, which is actually the lowest level since 2021. I mean, that's huge. It's proof these efforts are really working.
But of course, criminals don't just pack up and go home. When one door closes for them, they just start looking for an open window. The report makes it clear. As soon as one vulnerability is patched, they simply adapt and find another one.
And that's exactly what happened here. They pivoted, shifting their focus right back to good old card-not-present fraud, using stolen card details online. And boom, cases shot up by 22%. For them, it's an easier target. It's a high-volume, low-interaction crime that just relies on huge amounts of stolen data, making it way harder to spot any single suspicious transaction.
So this constant back and forth, this evolution, means the industry's response can't just be a one-trick pony. It has to be, everywhere at once. It has to be comprehensive, and it has to be absolutely relentless.
And they really are fighting back on multiple fronts. You've got these dedicated police units like the DCPCU, which managed to disrupt 90 different organized crime groups last year. Then there's something called the banking protocol, which is brilliant. It trains bank staff to spot scams as they're happening and step in immediately. See? It's a multi-layered defense.
And this isn't just theory or numbers on a page. These initiatives have a massive real-world impact. I mean, just look at this story out of Leeds. Quick-thinking staff at a building society spotted a vulnerable elderly man being exploited. They triggered the banking protocol, the police were called, and 2 arrests were made. That's a person's life potentially saved from absolute ruin.
Okay, so this brings us to what might just be the most important part of this whole explainer, what we can do. What's our role in this fight? So when you hear that a whopping 70% of these authorized fraud cases start online and another 16% come from a simple phone call, it makes you wonder, right? What is our best line of defense against these criminals?
Well, the advice from the Take 5 to Stop Fraud campaign is actually really simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It all comes down to 3 things. First, just stop. Take a breath. Take a moment to think before you do anything. Second, challenge. It is always okay to question, to refuse, or to just ignore a request. Remember, only a criminal will try to rush you or panic you. And finally, protect. If you even think you've been scammed, contact your bank immediately and report it.
And that really leaves us with one final, pretty sobering thought from this report. We're now at a point where fraud is so widespread, so damaging to our society and our economy, that it's being treated as a national security threat. That's huge. And it really forces all of us, individuals, big tech companies, government, to ask the question, are we all doing enough to fight it?